Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and we have some absolutely breaking news. The new prospectus, the sixth prospectus, taxpayer-funded independence prospectus, has literally just been released. This article is timed at 12:01. It's 12:12 as I'm recording this, literally straight in and recording. You are not going to believe what they're saying about what they call migration, but in actual just purely immigration. It is all immigration. And what they are proposing will make your jaw drop. It is so unacceptable. I think this will be the final end of the SNP. I can't even see SNP voters wanting this. I cannot see SNP voters even putting up with this. Hamza Yousaf wants to move in tens of thousands of immigrants, and instead of putting them into temporary accommodation while their status is accepted, no, he's putting them straight into council accommodation. He may need to move out the people currently in council accommodation to house the immigrants who've contributed precisely the square root of fuck all. But hey, they are the right colour. I'm shitting you not. Let's have a look. Now, regular viewers know I did the very first video this morning was on the massive housing crisis that you have in Scotland, particularly in Edinburgh. That was the one that I sort of concentrated on this morning. And the fact that it's being exacerbated by the fact that the SNP are going after short-term lets with the licensing, and a lot of the people have left that. And now they're going after private renters, private landlords, things they've already done, things they're proposing to do even further, even harsher. And so that's driving a lot of private renters out of the market. So the limited accommodation they do have is going to be basically limited down to council housing and social housing. And that's all. If that's all the available housing, then there's only one direction when this comes in. And it is astonishing what they are proposing. They certainly can't fund it. It's unbelievable. And of course, the moment they raise the taxes, everyone with a bit of money is going to get the hell out of Dodge. Anyway, the SNP's Independent Scotland seeks to move refugees straight into communities despite the housing crisis. The Scottish Government published its sixth taxpayer-funded, shouldn't be taxpayer-funded, independence prospectus, this time covering what they call migration, but it's purely immigration because he is only considering now immigrants from certain areas, not just general. But they failed to cost their own Home Office, which is costing $18 billion a year for the UK-wide one. So you'd be looking maybe $3 billion for Scotland. Anyway, the SNP's plan for migration for an independent Scotland would see them move refugees straight into communities despite the housing crisis across the country. Currently, asylum seekers are usually situated in short-term accommodation like hotels until they're given the right to remain. Now, I will also point that this will mean an absolutely hard border across Scotland to England, and it'd have to be a visa system, because you can't just let in all these unchecked immigrants and then just say, oh no, you got the right to enter England, because they won't. The English won't have it. They'll say, no, we can't just... No, people have to come in. We need to know who these people are. So if you have that and you put your hard border up, we want a visa system. What are the Scots going to do? You know, oh, hang on a minute. I work at, I live in Scotland, but I work in England. Well, that's fine. Have you got your visa? What do I need a visa for? We've got to close this border, pal. You keep leaving all these unchecked immigrants. We don't know who they are. They could be terrorists. We don't want them. We don't know who they are. What's England going to do? What would any country do? Sensible, isn't it? Anyway, in the Scottish Government's latest taxpayer-funded, even though they've been told not to do it anymore, Skexit prospectus, this would be changed. So instead of being put in short term, it's changed. They would be immediately housed in a permanent property by law, while their application is being looked at. They would also be allowed benefits as soon as they move north of the border as well. You'll be paying for that out of your taxes. So some people who've never contributed a brass farthing to the country, who may well be very, very dangerous people, just turning up unannounced, will immediately be given a vast amount of money out of your benefit system, and by law must be housed in social housing. Now that means they have to legally be housed But it doesn't mean that the Scottish national people, the actual Scots in those houses, don't need to actually be housed. And so they could be taken out so that the immigrants can be put in, because that would be the law. This is where he's going. He's going to be kicking white Scots out to put brown immigrants in, of houses, of their own homes. And how do we think it's going to stop? Is it going to stop just at social housing? Or are they going to go to private housing and say, actually, we're going to change the law now? Well, you've got a big house. There's only 2 of you living in a 4-bedroom house, right? You have to leave. And they put a big family in there and they give you a tiny house or something. Don't put that past him. They did that in Russia. They limited the house sizes and people sizes based on families. You couldn't just own a big house because you happen to own it. I don't see this ending well. Anyway, there's been a housing crisis in Scotland for the last 2 years, exacerbated by the SNP executives' tough rental restrictions. We mentioned these this morning. Like the rent freeze. Edinburgh City Council officially announcing a housing emergency on Thursday and admitted there were 5,000 families currently in temporary homes in the city. 5,000 currently in temporary homes, but he's saying 10,000 people coming into Scotland, minimum, all going to take priority for permanent housing over those 5,000 currently there in temporary. Are you still going to vote for the SNP? Are the SNP supporters going to vote for the SNP when they see their families being turfed out of these houses? When they see these people they know who were on a waiting list to get a house suddenly denied it because, hey, there's 20,000 Gazans have just come in. These questions have to be asked. Anyway, this is an issue which has been replicated throughout the country. Well, of course, up in Argyll and Bute as well. Major housing crisis. With Shelter Scotland statistics revealing that there are 10,000 children in shoddy temporary homes across Scotland, which leads to traumatic childhoods. Street sleeping is also exploding, with more and more people taking to camping on the pavements due to emergency accommodation running out. But despite this, the SNP is insisting it can handle asylum seekers better than Westminster. In the paper they write, the government intends that people seeking asylum would be housed in the community as the best means of supporting their long-term integration. And we know that these people don't integrate. We know they don't live to our standards. We see this every day. They refuse to integrate. We see them in, the Palestinian lot down in London. We're about to have the sort of 11th, the 11th of November, the Remembrance Day parades and that. They're planning a million man march to disrupt Remembrance Day because they do not share our values. They refuse to integrate. They form their own ghettos, then moan about them being in ghettos. And yet he's inviting even more of them in to simply brown up the face of Scotland. Because that's basically all it is. And he's going to do so by throwing white people out of their homes and giving it to the likes of Gazans and others. Now, this isn't a racist thing. I'm just telling you that that's what he's planning because that's what he's put in his prospectus. They've announced this. They're saying that they are going to put immigrants who've contributed nothing ahead of Scots people, Scots nationals who've been there their whole life. His words. He's the one being an absolute anti-white, anti-Scottish racist. But we know that because he's got form, hasn't he? Scottish ministers believe that the approach to delivering accommodation through private sector contracts has not worked and that it should be delivered through partnership, working by the public sector. And that, of course, is why they're trying to end private tenancies. They don't like the fact that some people are out there making money out of housing. But they desperately need the houses. But here's the thing. They make the market so hard for the private landlords. The private landlords sell up. Who are they selling to? People who go and live in the house. That removes all these rental properties. Where is Humza Yousaf going to house 20,000 Gazans? He's going to the only way he can do it is he's going to have to throw everybody out of social housing if they're not immigrants. Because he's making it the law that immigrants have to be housed. Well done. Well done. I really do hope now Scotland does become independent. I really do. Because then we can put that huge border up at Scotland, and England can announce that all Scots beforehand, all Scots citizens, please come to England. You're welcome. You're welcome down here, and let Humza Yousaf have, Scottistan all to himself. It also says that they would have the right to work to support their well-being from day one. Whereas in England they don't, because they don't know if they're illegal. They don't know if they're there for the right. They can't be employed, because the trouble is, employing these people when they're illegal actually breaks international law on slavery, of all things. In the paper, the SNP also claimed they would seek to streamline and simplify immigration law. Of course they would. The quicker, the more, the better. Get them all in, get them all in. That's it. Get a little bit. Scotland becomes a little bit more tanned, However, in the same page, they announced the creation of 3 core new institutions to manage the operational platform for that border, immigration and citizen system of Scotland. Basically, what they're saying is, day one, if you happen to be in Scotland, even on holiday, you become a Scottish citizen. It'd be amazing how many people sadly have to fly in from seeing relatives in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all the places where people look like Humza Yousaf just happen to be there on holiday on the day Scotland goes independent. Oh, look, they're Scottish citizens now. And then they'll want to bring their families in, etc. Oh, and they all get your house. You'll be moved out of your house so they can move in. Unbelievable that they think that they're going to get away with this. People of Scotland, this is who you're dealing with. A man who is desperate to race replace you all. Coming up. How could he get away with this? It's blatant racism. It is blatantly illegal. You're bringing in foreign nationals and giving them more rights and more opportunities than the native population, than the actual people of Scotland have got. When you're giving one group more rights than the other, and it's based on race, that's the word, isn't it? Well, they're not Scottish. You're Scottish, you don't count. They're not Scottish, they do. Oh, you're Scottish, you don't get that house. They're not Scottish, they do. This is a man who absolutely hates Scotland, hates white people, and wants to do his best to change everything that he can. And the people of Scotland, you're letting it happen. You're letting this happen. And the SNP voters, look at what they're doing and ask yourself, is that really, truly what you see the future of Scotland is? An independent country, but an Islamic republic. Because that's what he's attempting to do here. And you're going to be paying for it out of your taxes. And you'll be giving up your homes. And you'll be giving up your jobs. And you'll be giving up your rights. To a man who absolutely hates white people. Well done. Well done to the SNP. I think this should finally end them. Stopping. Thank you very much for watching. I told you it would make your jaw drop. Till the next video. Bye.